a lot of people are afraid that there will be a bot that could trade better than all of the humans, and the one who created the bot, yeah, will be rich and everything becomes exponential. Welcome everybody. Today, I really wanted to do this event because I talk a lot about how to use AI in corporate finance, but finance is much broader, and there is a big part I always get asked how to use AI in finance. And that's why I wanted to invite Andre, which I got to know through a podcast from CJ Gustafson. And I think that was one of the best podcasts I listened on AI for finance in the really broad term. And as soon as I heard the podcast, I wanted to meet with Andre. And Andre is also in Germany like me. So Andre, without waiting, I want to ask everybody to welcome you. And also, I want you to tell us where you are from and why for you AI and finance is just so obvious.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicholas, for the initiative. I really appreciate your kind words. So quick intro on myself. I'm Andre. I'm a partner with Earlybird Venture Capital. Earlybird is a pan-European early-stage VC firm. The firm has been around for 27 years, investing into the earliest stage of private companies. So for those of you who are not too familiar with venture capital is actually a subsector of private equity. So it's private investment firms investing into private companies. And as venture capitalists, we enjoy investing at the very earliest stages when it's oftentimes just the founders, some ideas, and really huge market opportunity ahead of them. And we are oftentimes the first money in, and then continue to work with the founder over many years, oftentimes even a decade, and really build generational companies that hopefully at some point we can exit into the billions. So that's venture capital. Earlybird has been around, one of the first here in Germany, today investing across Europe. And I joined the firm about 6.5 years ago. So I'm an engineer by training, computer science focus, spent a bit more than 5 years in the corporate world, went back to university, did a master's in management. By accident, heard about venture capital when I was in the US. Got back, just Googled best VC firm in Europe, found Earlybird, got really excited, did an internship, was frustrated how manual and inefficient all of the workflows were, and then actually started with my master thesis in the UK on the topic of data-driven approaches and machine learning in venture capital, and then continued with the PhD. So did a PhD between Munich and Cambridge in the UK on the topic of machine learning and venture capital. And on this journey, I then joined Earlybird in parallel to my PhD, finished that up, was always an investor, but started building tools for myself, and then also writing about it, which today became DataDriven VC. So DataDriven VC is a community of around 25,000, mostly investors that are interested in leveraging data-driven approaches and AI. So this is also how we came in touch. I've known CJ from Mostly Metrics. Shout out, he's doing some great work for quite a while already. And he thankfully asked to do an interview on the topic of AI in investing as a subsector of finance.
And that's why I really like, because I think we are complementary, as I am a finance guy first, and I went into AI because I love technology and finance. For those who don't know me, I'm Nicolas Boucher, worked 15 years in finance, first at PwC, working in Luxembourg and Singapore. Then I went on the corporate side, worked for a big French international company, more on FP&A finance. And the last 2 years, I've been focused with my own business on getting people in finance and companies to learn how to use AI in finance. And I love to learn from people like Andre, who are first AI by nature, because you learned that at school, you did your PhD on that. And I think like finance is easier to learn than data science. So I love that we can confront our ideas.
100%. No, I think it's really exciting, and also the areas that you cover are very complementary. Obviously, we ourselves also have finance department. Our portfolio companies have finance departments. So it's quite interesting to see, and I think it's a nice synergy, both the application of AI in finance more broadly, but then also for investing. So yeah, really excited for this conversation. Why don't we jump right in? So how do you think about the current state of AI in finance more broadly, Nicholas?
Yeah, so for me, the thing is, like people like you show that AI didn't start last year with ChatGPT. AI actually, people need to understand that, especially people that are in the payables environment, that AI is something that we have been using in finance since a long time, but now is democratized. And in the current state, I think you need now to understand that AI is not only ChatGPT. So if you want to start learning AI, you need to understand what it means, and that AI is basically, when you think is us as human, we learn, we are not always like a program that always do the same thing. Like a baby will learn words. Like my kids, that they learn something every day. Dogs learn things every day. And a computer just will replicate intelligence by learning by itself. And I think once you understand this, you understand that AI is really broad. So apply to finance. For me, there are two different words. There are the generative AI that everybody can use because they are just like a white collar, and you can use it to make your work better. So for example, you use ChatGPT to write emails for you, to create presentations, to write memos, or you use AI more for workflow. And if you use AI for workflow, you can look at something like payables, where since many years you already had companies implementing the payables where the PDFs were scanned using AI, because AI could recognize that this picture had text and that this text meant invoice number or quantity. And this could be booked. Now, what I see now is the democratization of AI, thanks to OpenAI mainly, because it became really accessible to everybody, is that everybody thinks that they can use AI, which is a good news. And now is actually like a must that you need in finance to use AI. And I just got on the phone 1 hour ago about a company who wanted to know how they can use AI in their company. And the first thing I said is, you need to make sure everybody in your team knows how to use the generative AI tool, so like ChatGPT and Gemini. But once you have done that, you need also to learn Python. And because Python is the only tool today that allows you, and you will correct if I'm wrong, but I think is the only tool or language that allows you to use algorithm to do forecasting with AI. And the big advantage right now is that you don't learn to code anymore because you have Gen AI that can code for you. And we have taught a lot of teams how to break the barrier of not using Python, but now using Python and basically now using it to forecast, using it also to automate some tasks. So, and that I would say, like right now, if you use like these tools, you can start using finance for your company, using AI for your finance company. And then the second level of maturity is more that you are going to look at some workflows where you are going to hire or to buy tools that are specific for this. And I'm going to show you that later. But on your side, like on the investing side, where do you see is AI for finance, Andre?
Yeah, I think a lot has changed recently. I think generally looking at the investment world, I'd love always to split it up. Like you have the public markets and you have the private market. And if we look at the public market, and data-driven approaches have been like common practice since the 1980s and 1990s. So today, if we look at the market of public market investing, then more than 3/4 of the funds are actual hedge funds. So hedge funds leveraging data-driven strategies and different kind of AI. So initially supervised and also unsupervised learning for both forecasting, data collection, data processing, entity matching, deduplication, like all of the stuff across the stack that really makes a difference in the public market investing. So it has been like common practice. If you look on the private market side of things, I remember when I asked people like, why would such smart humans do mostly monkey work in terms of moving data from A to B, working in Excel files? And I think there's this fun meme where there is the globe, and the globe is essentially kept up exactly, and it just says Excel. And this is the full truth for private market investing. So it's mostly built around Excel. And the only digitization that private market investors have seen is really from pen and paper Excel, PowerPoint, and like kind of digital tools. And if we look now at venture capital specifically, so venture capital investing in the early maturity stages up to growth investing, you can see that people back then in like 2016, 17, when I got into the industry, really said it's not possible. And they said it's not possible to leverage AI or data-driven approaches, mostly because of two reasons. Number one, it's private investors investing into private companies. So neither one has an obligation to disclose any information. That's number one. And number two, specifically, if you invest in the earliest stages of companies, you mostly have qualitative, unstructured data. And back then it was difficult to structure and process these data sets. Like fast forward now 6-7 years, we had the introduction of ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, like for people who were in the AI kind of segment before, it was not a big surprise in a sense. Like we've seen transformer models launched in the 2017, 2018 years, and it became common practice, the methodology of transformer models. The only thing that has really changed with ChatGPT is really mass adoption. And that's exactly what you described. Before that, you would have needed kind of Python or different languages. You could also use R for statistical analysis, for example, but you were required to do at least some level of coding to leverage AI. And now with ChatGPT, suddenly we have an interface that can translate from human language, whatever language this is, into code. And you can also translate language to language. You can also translate across modalities, so language to image or video to text. And I think that led to awareness, like really large scale awareness, and also a mindset change in the venture capital and also private equity industry more broadly. And now people ask the question, how can we leverage that? Because if you work with unstructured data, and as investors, we always know an information asymmetry is how you can generate alpha. Then the question is, how can you get your arms around data? How can you get your hands on proprietary data? How can you collect it, structure it, process it, and then make sense of the data with different kind of AI to make a difference in investing? And this is what we've seen since ChatGPT. So back then it was like a very small community of a few dozen of people who were like my peers looking to digitize venture capital. Now it's like thousands of people that suddenly want to change something. So the sentiment is it's the best time to really start out. And thankfully, the industry more broadly is still at day one.
And when you're saying that there are many more people starting to use AI, I would say broadly, yeah, because it's more accessible, what do you see those people doing that you are really amazed? Like what recently have you seen that you are really surprised that it is possible to do and that somebody thought about it, and when you see the results, you are amazed?
Yeah.
And you have a fun story to tell about that?
Yeah, look, I think tons of stuff. So today at Earlybird, we have an engineering team of around 7 to 8 full-time software developers, data people who really build our internal application. We call it Eagle Eye. And we leverage AI really across the whole value chain. Like some specific tasks is on large-scale data collection. And if you collect data from different sources, you need to unify it. So obviously, like a simple example, if you look at sourcing a new investment opportunity, we want to identify a founder as early as possible. Let's assume there is someone on Reddit, and on Reddit in a forum, they just text like, I'm looking for a co-founder. You get an entry in our database. Now, let's say a week later, you found your co-founder, you put in your LinkedIn, starting something new or stealth mode or one of these like funny taglines, and you will get the second entry. Now you go to your public register. In Germany, it's Handelsregister, in UK it's Companies House. So you register a company and you will get a third entry. And it continues. You will launch a product, something in the App Store, on Product Hunt, on GitHub, a Git repository, and so on. So you will get multiple data points. And we need to create a single source of truth, meaning we need to unify all of this information. And historically, that was done on deterministic approaches. Like, I don't know, you look for John Smith and you match all of the John Smiths together and you do it by URL. Very difficult to do at scale. So stuff like fuzzy matching was introduced. Now with large language models, it's super easy to really vectorize all of the information you have and then look for similar vectors. So similarity search, for example, incredibly strong. We use the same for classifying industries. Historically, we manually needed to classify, okay, this is an enterprise software, it's a developer tool, whatsoever. And just adding this manual information took time. Now with LLMs and also a combination with supervised classification models, we can automatically classify and process all of the structured data. And it goes to the other side of the spectrum where we actually interact with the founders. We have automated large scale drafting of emails, different kind of content that we put out and so on and so forth, that essentially the back and forth with different kind of stakeholders is automated. Those are just a few examples, but we have tons more across the value chain, and we can see that we made our investors not only more efficient, meaning we increase the output-input ratio, but also more effective in a sense that we spent more time with less relevant opportunities. So historically, you were spread too thin and you didn't spend enough time with the right opportunities. Today, you can focus on fewer opportunities that have a higher likelihood of success. So that's a bit how it looks like in the investment world. How's that on your side in the finance world?
Well, I would like to take this example because I always think it's good to transpose an idea to another environment. And like the word fuzzy, reconciliation or fuzzy matching, that's the word. I learned it also thanks to AI, and is actually what people do when they do a reconciliation between the bank and the accounting. Because not everything is always matching perfectly with the right idea. And a fuzzy match is this concept that you have an approximate match, but which has basically the highest probability of working. And I think using that, I will recommend everybody in accounting to look at this concept, fuzzy matching, to see how they can use first Excel and after maybe Python, but to use everything that already exists to do your reconciliation and to automate that. And like also in investing where you want to have one single source of truth and reconciliate those information, this is what accountants do every day when they do reconciliation. And so for me, this is like an opportunity, like let AI do the reconciliation for you, but you need first to give the intelligence inside. Because I'm sure your team, they didn't just like put the data inside and got like a magic answer. They were like behind explaining when is it a good match and when is a bad match, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think like it was really a natural evolution. I can tell you that I manually matched tens of thousands of entries together like 7-8 years ago. When I was doing research, you needed to manually match all of these entities together. And at some point, you introduce a deterministic logic for fuzzy matching. So, for example, you're not just matching John Smith, but you also match John P. Smith together because you find, oh, it's the same person because they live in the same place. So you include more features. And then you get from like a very deterministic one-to-one matching into fuzzy matching. And then your dictionary of logic really evolves over time. And I think only on this foundation, you can then transform the intelligence also to LLMs and AI more broadly to really make sense of it. Another example is that historically we needed to manually classify companies into industries to make sure we have an internal allocation across the investment team. And what we've done is since 2018, we started to manually collect this data. We have labeled more than 50,000 investment opportunities. And this data set of company description and then a label, like a category, investment sector, industry label, we do the same for technologies, for example, serves as a training basis for classification models, for example. So oftentimes it's also, you just need to start out with a simple solution that might be deterministic rule-based. Then you get into something more intelligent before you actually move to the fully fledged AI solution. So it's very important to just get going and then really codify your intelligence and knowledge before you get into the fully fledged AI solution.
And on this, because to finish the answer, and that's also what I was asked 2 hours ago from a CFO of a big SaaS company. They asked me like, where should I start in finance, in AI for finance? For my finance team. So if you want to start using AI in finance, actually build a really simple roadmap, which is here. which shows you the AI approaches based on your company size. And you need to think about this based on the size of the company or the size of your team. Let's imagine you are in a big company, but you are responsible of 10 people. Well, you can also look at the first pillar. And the first pillar, what I will always advise people is start getting to know how to get the best out of the tools that are available for you. ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude. Already with this, you can save so much time and add a lot of value to your business. And then once you have done this, make sure that you also digitize your processes, especially the invoice one, so the P2P process, using OCR and NLP. And you have tools that are right now, for example, in Azure, that you don't even need to buy. Like if you use Microsoft, you can use their model to recognize invoices, to parse the data, put that in your ERP, and you save a lot of time. And the third one, I think everybody in finance today needs to learn to use Python. And the chance right now is that you don't need any more to code Python because generative AI will code for you. But what you can do in Python is like 1,000 times what you can do in Excel. And maybe 1,000 is not enough, it's maybe 1,000,000 because Python can change your file. Python can do visualization that you cannot do in Excel. For example, cohort analysis with heat map, impossible to do in Excel if you don't do all of this crazy formatting. And also Python, what it can do, it can forecast for you using machine learning algorithm. So this is something really, if you have a small team, you can do all of this without buying extra tools. And
if I may just add to that, I think that this is so on spot, and I will share a thought in a second on how you can actually translate exactly this framework into an investment firm. I will share a few thoughts in a second. But I think what you just said on the Python part is incredibly important. Nowadays, many people say like, oh, why should I learn coding? Because with ChatGPT, for example, I can just translate natural language. I can just describe my target outcome and then the code for it will be generated. And I think it's very important to understand that at least today, you probably get like an 80–90% kind of solution. You don't get the perfect solution in most of the cases. And in order to get from this, let's say 80–90% solution to a perfectly running system, because we all know in finance, it is about these last few percentages. It's oftentimes not sufficient to deliver the 80–20 solution. You actually need to understand the details to take the ChatGPT outcome, for example, in Python code, and really make these minor changes and twists so that you get to the 100% solution. So I couldn't agree more with what you just said.
And maybe I think I will show something for everybody who still don't believe Python is something that they should use. It's a mini video that I did recently showing how Python works, for example, if you want to combine files. Because I will explain on the side while I do that, because the video is 2 minutes, but I will explain you and me on the side. So let me share my screen quickly. So imagine one thing, and that's a story I had myself. I had one day to combine 80 files, with each file had like 500 lines. And on top, I had after to change this to upload that in our accounting system. So I was always thinking myself, okay, I'm going to use Excel, but it will take like 1 day to do all of this. And actually, so imagine this in this case, and I'm sure you'll laugh, Andre, where you have 12 files like this. So really easy case where I think everybody here will probably just copy and paste this data and just make a file combine manually to have one annual file with the 12 months. Well, the other solution is to go to ChatGPT to ask for you to code. And because ChatGPT can write the code, and this is an easy case, it's not a complicated one. The code is really close to succeed because it's not complicated. Then you get the code written for you. Then after you use Google Colab, and Google Colab is like Google Doc for coding. So it's really easy. You don't need to install anything. It's on the cloud. And what you do here, you connect your Google Drive, and now you will see that all of my data, I can access them. So like this, because it has access to my data, it can read the data. And if it can read the data, I can ask the code to combine for me. So you see that here, the only thing I change is I explain to Google Colab where is my data, because ChatGPT didn't know where is my data. And once you just change that, you run the code, it will connect Google Drive for you. And you will see in the bottom how long it executes. Like look, all of us at the execution time in the bottom, 15 seconds. In 15 seconds, it created a file that has all of my 12 files combined. And I challenge everybody here to do that manually in 15 seconds. And now imagine if you have to do that for 365 files.
Yeah.
And that's really like, each time I show this video to people, they are convinced that they can use Python and can do much more than just this simple example.
Yeah, this is such a great example. And I think it really shows just get started. If people think about, oh, how can I leverage AI? Then they think about something super complex. They have something super abstract in mind. And it's very important to just get going. Like the internet is out there. Historically was Stack Overflow if you wanted to look up a bit more complex stuff. But today with ChatGPT and other tools like that, it's super easy to just get going and just play a bit around. And I think like for me, that has been one of the biggest learnings. Don't overcomplicate things. Just get going, start out, and play a bit around. And then with simple use cases like that, you will see your efficiency increase already. And then you can start like staggering them on top and really build more complex stuff.
And there is actually a good question about how to do that, because somebody asked Vitaly, really good question. So can you briefly describe the resource it takes to in corporate finance, or maybe in just in a team, in a finance team, how to build your own ML-based data model to deploy AI? And what do you need in terms of teams expertise, which software, which hardware? As you say, like you recommend to start now, to start something easy. So what are the level of expertise, software and hardware you need based on the different ambitions?
Yeah. Look, I think if you, so also an analogy that I wanted to pick up from the chart you have shown before, where you have the 3 different groups based on company size. So for venture capital or investment firms more broadly, you can just replace the number of employees with assets under management. So the assets under management, in most cases, define how much management fee you get. And the management fee, together with how lean or big your team is, defines on how much you can invest in terms of resources. And if you think about that, just assume on the left-hand side, you have solo GPs and micro VCs. So it's really small firms, oftentimes below 50 million in terms of assets under management. Then you have the regular early stage funds in the middle that typically have, say, starting at 100 million in fund size. So really in terms of fund size, you look for, say, 100 to 500 million. And then you have these large scale funds, either growth funds, multi-stage firms, pre-IPO firms. And what you can say is that specifically the smaller kind of boutique firms, solo GPs, micro VCs, for them, oftentimes looking at off-the-shelf solutions is sufficient as long as you have an internal owner. It's very important to have one person taking full responsibility on how to integrate it. And it's more often actually about automation use cases, very simple stuff like the use case you've just shown with merging documents together. So it's not too complex. And for these investors, they can still be successful by leveraging their networks for sourcing, leveraging their traditional like human resources, but really augmenting them with AI and automation workflows. Now, if you look into, let's say, the middle bucket of early stage firms, or on the right-hand side at the growth firms, this is exactly what you see. So if you want to compete as a larger scale firm, you really need to think about dedicating resources, and resources means starting with like someone who's capable of understanding both the investment processes, but also the technical world, so that you can assess the buy versus build question. This is how it started. And that was essentially me at Earlybird back then, because I was an investor and I translated my PhD research and the coding stuff I've done before into reality, building a simple tech stack for myself. But I always tried to keep it very lean in terms of team, looking if something is available off the shelf, because if it's available off the shelf, it's per definition already a commodity, and there's no reason of reinventing the wheel and like rebuilding a commodity in-house. This is how we started out. And then as the firms scale, this is probably your right side of the bucket, you start to build crucial components in-house. And in order to do it, just to give you a feeling on, I mentioned in the beginning that our team right now is 7 to 8 dedicated engineers. For us, the data collection is very important. So for us, it's someone who owns the scraping and also integration with different kind of databases. For us, it's very important to have data engineers, because these data engineers create a single source of truth. They create and maintain the data pipelines, looking at scalability. You build all of the scheduling, that all of the pipelines are executed well, and so on and so forth. And then it's really about making the data actionable. And that's a big learning. So historically, I personally overestimated the importance of data science in a way, and that might be my bias because this is where I actually come from. So I thought you would need like deep NLP experience, data science, forecasting experience, while in reality, we rather need 80-20 engineers. So software developers who have like 3, 4, 5 years of experience and can work across the stack and can go deep like in 1 or 2 areas. So a classical T-shape profile. Yep. Fast forward to today, if we look at the setup of our team, essentially we have a product manager, so a person that I wanted to replace myself. So someone who is translating between the investment professionals and the engineering team. And we have an engineering lead. It's someone overseeing and managing like OKRs, product roadmap, and so on and so forth, and breaking it down into individual working packages. For our backend engineers, full stack developers, we have a designer, like people who build our web application that can actually make the data from the data engineers actionable. This is how we look at it. And I think if I would need to start all over again, I would really look initially more for 80-20 kind of people that can work across the stack, and someone who understands both the investment world, the subject matter that we actually try to build tooling for, but also the technical work. So someone who can translate between the worlds and understand what is actually required.
And this is actually what people want is they have the background, I would say like operational business background, but they understand, and we get a lot of questions now, like how do they get the AI knowledge? How do they learn that? Do you think for people who didn't follow the path of starting with this, like you did, or like maybe some developers, how can they catch up to learn data science, to learn how to apply that? Because everybody is asking, and maybe also, to give hope for people, because I believe if everybody who is already there, like the 170, 180 people who joined tonight, they already, I think, are ahead because they are motivated by it. But yes, once they are motivated, like how do we help them to go to the next step, which is, okay, from motivated to start learning, and then from learning to start applying it? Yeah.
No, I think that's a great question. And just to give you a feeling, so with DataDriven VC, my newsletter and community, we do a landscape every year to give a snapshot of where the industry is at. And to give you a feeling, last year we had 151 investment firms with dedicated teams and initiatives internally. This year we had 191 firms. So you can see the growth is significant in the firms that are actually just starting. But we have more than 80% of firms that want to increase their resources in the near and midterm. So what we see is, and if you put that in context, we have about 1% of venture capital firms in the world who have dedicated initiatives today, but more than 80% of firms that want to increase their resources. So there's a significant gap between the status quo and those that want to start out. And for those that want to start out, I think everyone here in the audience, you're already one step ahead because you're educating yourself. you take part in these conversations, but the majority is just like they keep this abstracted, super complex, oh, this is the weird AI thing in mind, and they never get to the point where they start playing around, start educating them. There's tons of resources out there, and this has been also the idea for me. Like many people ask me, why do you even so openly write about the stuff you're doing with data-driven VC? And for me, I've been personally, as a developer before, as I am today as an investor, a strong believer in open source. So I really share all of the stuff because I can tell from my own experience, I share a fraction of what I get back from the community in terms of ideas. And what has helped me a lot was to have these peers around that I can bounce ideas back and forth and we can collectively learn. And that's really the idea behind data-driven VC, and also with you and your resources, to really form a community, have this peer learning, and then really shed a bit more light into the dark and provide a bit signal in all of the noise.
Yeah, and to complete your response and to answer to everybody who is asking, okay, how do I start? So you already started because you are there. You are in this webinar. But the next step, either you learn by yourself. There is a lot of videos for free everywhere. We post for free. Like Andre has an amazing newsletter, and also on LinkedIn, he posts a lot. So either you follow the right people if you have time. If you don't have time, like myself, for example, I build a video course that in 2 hours, you can become from knowing nothing about how to use generative AI and ChatGPT to, after 2 hours, really know how to use it in finance and in all of the finance roles. So there are those courses. Then the next step after, once you know how to use generative AI, you need to know the next step is, like I showed you, there is Python. Because generative AI without your data is really like missing a lot of opportunities, because of course in finance we need to do our work with data, and a lot of time if your company didn't invest in a contract with OpenAI or with Azure, then you cannot put your data inside the LLMs. And on top, I will never recommend to use LLMs only to analyze data. You need to make sure the LLM is asking Python to calculate, because the calculation needs to be done by something calculating and not something creating, because LLMs are creating and Python is calculating. So really different. So if you want to go to this second level, which is more advanced, but I just showed to everybody with this video, we have a course with Christian Martinez where we show people exactly how to break the barrier to use generative AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, plus Python, and how to together to make this plus cohort analysis, plus forecasting, plus visualization. And it's amazing it's twice 2 hours, how people like just change their mindset in this course and they feel so much opportunities. And after the third step, I think is by yourself, you need to, I would say, like claim the title of being the AI champion in your team if nobody's doing it. And if somebody else is doing it, then partner with them to create really this champion role. Because again, I repeat, if you are here tonight, you are already in the top 1%. If you are here tonight, you also need to bring everybody else with you, because alone you will not succeed to change things, but you can help the others learn faster AI because you will show them. And you can also show to your management the low-hanging fruits. And by showing them, they are not stupid, your management. They will see value, and then they will want that everybody learns it. So be the driver and don't wait that somebody is taking your hand, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's an amazing summary. And I see some people here in the chat already saying nice words about your ChatGPT for finance training. I think it's incredibly powerful, and this is really how you start out. How do you think about like on the one hand side Python, and in my world extending it the build approach? So really going into the nitty gritty. You explained it as the second more advanced level versus using off-the-shelf tools. And I've seen you just published this incredibly valuable landscape of AI tools. How do you think about this balance of leveraging off-the-shelf tools where you might not be required to go into this advanced level, and then really the requirement of going into the advanced level? How does that play together, and how do you think about the AI tools available more broadly right now for finance?
Yeah. So this the map I did to answer your question and to show to everybody, I did this map of the top 100 AI finance tools. And what you can see, there is not a big logo that says, "Oh, this logo does everything." And so if you can zoom, we have accounting and accounting automations. We have accounting receivables, payables, invoice processing. We have FP&A. We have analysis. We have tax, treasury. We have startups, investment, and then other more common productivity tools that are available for also the non-finance people. And when you see that, what it says is that this shows that the startups right now are really good in one vertical. So they will help you to make your payables faster and to digitize the process and to use the highest possibility of AI right now only on this workflow. But there is today, and I don't think it will come that fast, there is no magic box where you just say, oh, here are all of my Excel files and all of my PDFs. Here's the accounting system. And here is the management meeting that I have in 3 days. Do everything. I just lift my hand up and do that for me with just one little prompt. That doesn't exist now, and I don't think it will exist until a long time. But I think all of these startups, what they want to do is they want to get really good at one thing. So we are back to the roadmap that I was showing. If you are big enough that for one problem, you need help from a specialized tool, for example, your payables, or for example, lease accounting, you have like really big complex contracts, and it takes a lot of energy in your accounting team to understand them and to book that. Then you can use a tool like Trullion, Trulllion, because they are the best at doing that, and they use AI to read it, but also to model it and to propose an entry in your accounting system. And then what I think, a big belief that I have is that the big giants like OpenAI, like Azure also with OpenAI, Anthropic with Amazon and Claude and Google, what they are going to do is they are going to open or to get APIs with all of the systems that everybody is using, that the big systems like Salesforce for CRM or HubSpot, or web analytics like Google Analytics, or Facebook, your data in Facebook, or even some big accounting systems. And once they will connect their LLM, and with just one API, you will be able to read the data or to create, then I would say they could kill a lot of mini use cases, because you could go tomorrow in 6 months in ChatGPT and just say, can you build a GPT that books for me my invoices if I give you 100 PDFs? And right now it's already possible, because I saw the OpenAI team, they showed me that they did it. You just need to code, and you need to have a level of coding that is a bit higher than the average. But tomorrow, just prompting that and giving your API of QuickBooks, you can have a GPT that is doing the payable process for you. And that's a big risk for startups. So they have to get better than the giants at their things. And I think that's where we are going to go, is two options. Either you are too small to buy a specific tool, you are going to use the giant tools, or you have a really need on one vertical, and then you are going to use the specific tools.
Yeah. No, it's very much the same like we see in the investment world, actually. So we could see, I don't know if I can also share my screen here.
Yeah, let me allow you. Yeah, it's good now.
Okay, let me check. We just look, so this is a snapshot from the DataDriven VC landscape 2024. We just published it in May. And if we look at what are the biggest pain points actually in becoming more data-driven, you will see that finding the right tool is the biggest pain point for half of the investors out there. And then it's really about finding the right data sources, making data actionable. But what it really says, like the core essence of this is really, you need to cut through the noise. And where this is really coming from is that this whole landscape of investment tech just started evolving over the last decade. So it started with initial database providers like Crunchbase, D-Room, PitchBook, CB Insights, VentureSource, Traction, and so on. So it's essentially commercial database providers that have been collecting the data. From there on, we had CRM systems, so VC-focused CRM systems like Affinity, Attio, and so on, which was like the second layer. Then you like really merge this data together in the CRM system, try to make sense of it. You have the signal providers like Harmonic, Synaptic, Spectre, and so on and so forth. And what then happened specifically in the last 3 to 5 years is that this whole landscape of tools and data providers became a huge mess. So everyone could suddenly see it's a big opportunity. And now the market became incredibly fragmented. Mm. So in this landscape, I also linked a list where I've been tracking more than 500 tools. So I tried almost all of them myself, which was great fun over the years and helped me to also frame the make versus buy decision. And I could see that people are actually not interested in like the huge list of 500 tools. They are more interested in what are the top 3, what are the top 5, top 10 tools. And this is really what we did here. Like we tried to spotlight a few across the stack from data, CRM, portfolio management, fund admin, and so on and so forth. And what we did is really, we developed the VC tool finder because people are not interested in researching specific tools, comparing them with each other, and so on and so forth. They are interested in, oh, what does my competitor or peer fund actually use? So with the VC tool finder that we are just testing in closed beta right now, people can actually compare their own tech stack from their investment firm with the tech and tool stack of other investment firms. So it's semi-anonymized, you can compare it. And in addition to that, you also get like discounts from the different vendors. So we saw this huge need in a fragmented landscape of tons of noise. And this is why we try to shed a bit light by providing the snapshot here and developing the VC tool finder.
That's really cool. I think I have to do that for the AI Finance Club, also for all of the members to do this more, I would say, benchmarking, because that's the question I always get. Yesterday, again, like the ex-CFO of Oracle told me, I want to know what the others are doing. I want to know who has the best use cases for AI. And that's a lot of research. So really smart also from you to use your presence in the community to collect data and actually to give that back as a benchmark. That's very smart. I need to ask you on the side how you did that, so I can do it for the AI Finance Club.
Thank you.
And so so for you, like I gave a bit my predictions. What is going to change especially in investment? Because a lot of people are afraid that there will be a bot that could trade better than all of the humans, and the one who created the bot, will be rich, and like with leverage, everything becomes exponential. Is it already the case? Second, is it probable? And third, everybody is there. Like if they want to do that themselves, they can the one building this bot.
No, I think it's a great question. So I would again distinguish between the public markets on one hand side and the private markets. In the public markets, we could already see that hedge funds really outperformed the markets, and it became incredibly competitive in a way to continue creating alpha over a longer period of time. And you could also see that with robo-advisors that invested money on your behalf. And it becomes very clear that with information being broadly available in the public markets, it's already very difficult to create alpha by leveraging, in a way, AI. It's different in the private markets. In the private markets, I have a clear perspective that unless you are one of these micro solo GPs where it might be sufficient to leverage your human networks and really augment yourself with AI and automation. For every other more scalable investment firm, they need data and AI really in their core. So for me, it's very clear that those investment firms that don't leverage data-driven strategies and AI, which are a bit more large scale as an investment firm, won't survive. And I think we see as private equity, we have long feedback cycles. Like in venture capital, our fund duration is 10 years. And you only know if you're any good versus just being lucky once or twice in over a decade. So these feedback cycles will take some time until it's clear and obvious to everyone. But my prediction is very clearly that as a more scalable private market investment firm, you need to have data and AI in your core. But, and that's now the second prediction, I think it will not be fully automated. We also asked in the data-driven VC landscape, how many people believe that private market investing will be fully automated. And it's interesting to see this like purist quant VC camp. It's already 10% of the people who replied and said, we believe that private market investing will be fully automated. So we will be able to remove the human from the equation and just have like purely algo-based investing. I'm a strong believer that specifically if you have a lead investor strategy, it needs to be an augmented approach. Because eventually it's also like human investing into humans. We want to see the fire burning in the eyes of the entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs also don't want to have an algorithm on their board, right? They want to have humans. If shit hits the fan, they can call, they can do sparring, also on the emotional level. So for me, it's very clear that number one, no investment firm at a larger scale will survive without AI and data-driven strategies in their core. For me, it's very clear that augmented VC will be the winning strategy. I think if you have a small follower fund that just provides capital as more of a commodity, a pure quant fund will work. But for me, augmented VC is the clear future ahead. How do you think about that if you reflect that to finance?
Yeah, so that's, for me, I really believe, because a lot of people think that AI will take their job. That's always like the question. And I think if you look also because you can look at the history, people thought that Excel will take their job. Then people thought that internet will take their job. And what it does is that it makes our job actually more complex. Because if you look 10 years ago or 15 years ago, just like showing a mini chart will like amaze everybody. Like in a presentation of finance, if you were not showing a table, but just like a chart, you are like, wow, like, how did you do that? Now, like, if you don't have this dashboard that is dynamic, that you can do drill down, that has real live data, then you are has been and you are not really on the top of your game. And so each time that the technology augments and accelerates, is not that we lose our job. It's just that we have to do other things because everything we were doing manually now gets automated. And then we need actually to spend more time on where we are better. And where we are better, especially in finance, should be go and talk to your other departments. Use your knowledge about the company, about the business to solve problems and get insights that are not really there in the data. Also, use your brain to use technology so that you can spend actually maybe less time at work because maybe you want to spend time with your family and go home earlier, but still do the same job than before. It's okay. You don't have to spend 12 hours to be somebody valuable for your company. You just need to have a great output. And I really believe that if you look at what are the skills required today to do a great job, there is a component to be able to manage robots. So like understanding what robots can do, customize them, and also have some basics of data science because you need to know what is possible. But there are like 70% other skills are more focused on human skills, creativity, negotiation, resiliency, like managing also people. And all of this, you will not get AI to do that for you. But if somebody can use AI and then have more time to go and speak with all of the other business partners, then it will provide much more value than the person sitting behind his desk or her desk, doing just Excel crunching work and do something in 3 hours that just one formula could replace in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I'm just reading here in parallel through the questions, and I would love to also take a few minutes to pick some questions here from the audience. One that I found very interesting is from H. Leimbach on operational accountability concerns. How do you think about that in finance? So leveraging AI, more intelligent tools versus having the human in charge. How do you think about accountability and actual
Yeah.
downside protection?
So for me, AI is a tool. AI is not a person. And even if AI will be a person, it will be a person in my team. I am the manager of my team, or even if I don't have a team, AI is working for me. And so everything that I use from AI, I'm responsible if I use it as my output. So if we take that and we imagine tomorrow, all of us, we get a trainee for free, or you spend a few cents per month. This trainee is called ChatGPT. Well, if this trainee is drafting my presentation and tomorrow I go to my boss, I show to my boss the presentation, and my boss shows me slides 4 and tells me, what is this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why did you write that? I will never point back and say, that's not me, that's my trainee. Because one, I will look stupid. Okay, I don't need you. I will just get the trainee and then goodbye. The trainee costs less than you, and I will work directly with the trainee. So all of us, we need to take this as somebody working for us, reviewing the work, also coaching it, because it's by coaching your trainee that you get a better trainee. And then if you have this framework, then you can use this as a tool and get better work. That's for me, like, instead of not using AI, using AI like this is the right way.
I think you also nicely answered another question here from Mankad Tanvir. How do we ensure that the team leverage AI but doesn't outsource thinking to
Exactly.
ChatGPT? I think that's perfectly on spot and really, really how we feel about it too. Like there is both in finance but also in investing world, there's also a significant downside. Like we are trustees of mostly other people money, but also our own money in the funds. And we need to make sure to not outsource our thinking. So eventually the human is in charge, which I think is incredibly important. And now if you also look at this, like the development where you have like different kind of, say, two different ChatGPTs talking to each other, which becomes an agent. So an agent that creates a task list, you take a task, you execute the task. And now an evolution of that, you also have multi-agent systems. So multiple agents interacting with each other. I think it's incredibly important that we as humans continue to observe. We need to continue to understand. So explainability, specifically in mission critical tasks, is incredibly important. And then we need to have someone responsible and in charge. Not only in self-driving cars, like what happens if someone gets hit and dies, but really also in knowledge worker jobs like finance and investing.
Yeah, totally the point. And I think it's a good way to close because it's just the beginning, and those webinars are there to help you. And we, all of you that are there, you get actually exclusive access to our newsletter. So the newsletter of Andre that he is going to explain, and also my newsletter, where, so by subscribing, you have exclusive access right now, and it's free. So you will get that every week. So thank everybody. And Andre, you can explain quickly what people can expect from your newsletter. And thank you already that you came and just delivered so much value for everybody here.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's really an exciting conversation that I would love to continue in one form or another. On data-driven VC, it's really a one-stop shop to run a modern investment firm. So both from knowledge, which you can gain through the newsletter or different kind of resources. We have a community, we have products. The community is called The Lab, where you can access different kind of videos, podcasts, really everything to learn about private market investing, inside what makes successful founders and companies, but then really about how can I find the right tools, how can I find the right data sources to really implement it and make data actionable, exchange with your peers. So all of that is via data-driven VC, and I'd be happy to see some of the people in the audience join us. How about you?
I've read the newsletter, and even if you are not in the investment world, if you are smart enough to know how you can connect it to finance, and I think all of you here are, because you are here tonight, I think you will have a lot of fun reading that and a lot of learning. So I encourage you, but you will receive it soon. And on my side, I'm always there because I want that finance function and the finance team is the champion of using AI in business. And I believe we are the well-placed, the better place for this, because if you look, finance is at the crossroad of all of the departments. Finance is always good with technology. We are really good with ERP, with Excel, with all of the other tools. And what we have access to all of the data of the business most of the time. So I think we are the best place and we should be the AI champion of the business. And if everybody is there tonight, I encourage you to become AI champions in your company. And thank you for coming tonight. And we see you in another webinar or in the newsletter in the coming days and coming weeks.
Thank you so much, Nicolas.
Thank you, Andre. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.